Consider a population with a mean equals to 40. Which of the standard deviations that follow would position the score x equals to 50 at the most extreme location within the distribution? Okay, so we've got a standard deviation, a small one, which is 2, a slightly larger one of 4, larger still, standard deviation of 5, and finally a standard deviation of 10. So the idea here is that if the average of the distribution is 40, if you had a score of 40, you would not be at an extreme end. You'd be right in the most typical spot to be in this distribution. But we don't have 40. We have a score that instead of being 40, we've got a score that is up here at 50. Now the question is, how far up here is this really? How much of a difference is this extra 10 points? Well, if I was to take a standard deviation of 10, a standard deviation is an average deviation. Think of standard as really meaning the same thing as average. So if my average deviation was 10, that would mean that on average, most scores are within 10. So this makes this seem kind of normal. On average, most scores are within 10 of the mean, and so is this one. So this is a very typical kind of score. But if I go all the way to the other extreme, and I had a standard deviation of 2, that would mean that on average, most scores are within 2 points. So most scores are going to fall somewhere between 38 and 42. The majority of scores, in fact, 70% of scores are within one standard deviation. You also learn in this chapter that 95% of scores are within 2 standard deviations. So if I went 2 standard deviations, so if I went up to 44 and if I went down another 2 to 36, I would have most scores are within 95% of my scores are going to be somewhere between 36, that's 2 standard deviations below 40, and 44, which is 2 standard deviations above 40. 50 is not even close to there. 50 is so far ahead of that, it would make it a very extreme score. So the answer is going to be a standard deviation of 2 makes 50 the most extreme. It puts it at the most extreme distance from 40.